Had you called on me?
Oh, Ms. Schrier, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman DeFazio, Ranking Member Graves, for hosting this member day today. I appreciate the opportunity to testify about my priorities and concerns as a representative from Washington's 8th Congressional District. And my district has it all: farms, crowded suburbs, mountain passes that close frequently, rural roads, interstates, freight, rail, ferries, wind and hydropower, and more. And so I'm submitting a longer letter to address all of these concerns, but I wanted to highlight just a few for you today. First, in Washington State, we are a leader in clean energy production and have made investments in hydro, wind, and solar power, which are critical for broader electrification and meeting our future clean energy goals. And in particular, our state's a large producer of hydropower. Only 3% of dams, though, actually produce hydropower in America, and we could double that production without building a single new dam. In the next decade, close to 30% of US hydropower projects are going to come up for relicensing. And I'm interested in how to leverage this opportunity, building on the work already done in academia and advocacy and industry by focusing on the renewable energy and storage benefits of hydropower and the environmental and economic benefits of healthy rivers. So this would include rehabilitating dams to improve safety and resiliency. It would include retrofitting powered dams and adding generation at non-powered dams while addressing fish passage, flood mitigation, and grid integration. And it would also include removing dams that don't provide sufficient benefits to justify their environmental impacts. For trade, separate issue, it is a priority to ensure that the rural areas in my district are well connected. The Wenatchee Valley in my district is a prime example. The valley and surrounding rural areas depend on an 11-mile Apple Capital loop to carry more than 100,000 vehicles each day. The nearest interstate highway is 40 miles away, and travel is really constrained by mostly 2-lane rural roads and 2 bridges. Improvements in this loop are critical for trade, emergency services, and fire safety. At the economic heart of my district is agriculture. Central Washington is home to some of the nation's largest growers and exporters, and farmers and growers face chronic challenges to get their products to market, including frequent road closures, port delays, and that distance from an interstate highway. And more acutely, farmers have shared with me how pandemic conditions, trade imbalances, port shortcomings, and international shipping practices at our ports are negatively impacting their industry, threatening export markets, and also the relationships they developed over decades. Shipping has become really unpredictable, delayed, more expensive, and perilous especially for perishable goods like the apples and cherries coming from my district. Ships are frequently returning to China empty rather than with our exports. And so, along with improvements in shipping policies, our ports and shipping infrastructure require modernization to preserve our agricultural community. Finally, I want to talk about safety. Chelan County is highly vulnerable to catastrophic wildfires. And during the last fire evacuation efforts, it became alarmingly evident to my constituents that that same Apple Capital loop was insufficient for safe evacuation. It's another compelling reason for those improvements. And finally, I'd love to highlight climate action and environmental stewardship. Washington State has invested millions of dollars to address downstream barriers that block Chinook salmon from reaching their spawning grounds. And headwaters located in our national forests are critical to having salmon populations thrive downstream. So in the coming weeks, I'm planning to reintroduce the Legacy Roads and Trails bill, which ensures dedicated funding to the U.S. Forest Service for projects that protect clean water and riparian habitat. This program focuses on urgently needed road decommissioning of unused or unsafe roads, the removal or replacement of culverts and other fish passage barriers, and the repair and maintenance of roads and trails. And so Thank you for your leadership and for attending to the needs of my district, and I yield back the very minuscule balance of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Schrier. And next, the chair would like to recognize Congressman Mann.